Okay, Zabbix Get. It's a little utility that you can install if you have the Zabbix repository on your system. If you've installed the Zabbix agent on Windows, you'll also get the little executable there, zabbixget.exe. It's useful for querying Zabbix agents from the command line. Now, you don't have to use Zabbix Get from a Zabbix server or proxy or another agent. You can just install it on another server if you like. It doesn't have Zabbix at all, but you just need to make sure that you've installed the right repository for your operating system and you have the correct version. So, for example, on another Ubuntu server, I could download the Zabbix repository using that URL there, install it using the package manager, do an apt update, and then apt install the Zabbix Get. But on my Raspberry Pi, I already have the Zabbix repository because I've installed Zabbix proxy and agent on this. So all I need to do is run sudo apt install Zabbix Get. Okay, it's there. I can now test that it works. So Zabbix Get -h for help, and there's the instructions and some example usage there. Okay, so a test, I'll query the Zabbix agent running on this same Raspberry Pi server. So copy that first line, Zabbix Get, the IP address is 127.0.0.1. So S is the IP address that you're querying, P for port, so you're querying a Zabbix agent on another server at that IP address, K for key, and I'm calling agent.ping, enter, and it just gives me a 1, clear. I could also say agent.version, like that, version 6, that's the version of the Zabbix agent running at that IP address. Another one, agent hostname, Raspberry Pi, and another one, system CPU load, all average 1, or average 15, or average 5. There we go. Now, when the Zabbix Get is called like that, the agent thinks it's a server making a request. It doesn't know that it's an executable doing that. So the Zabbix agent configuration of the host that you're querying needs to have the IP address of the querier in the server parameter. It's like a passive check. So to demonstrate that, on my Windows host where I've installed Zabbix agent as well, Zabbix Get is in the command line there. So if I go into the command line of my Windows host and just type cmd to open a command prompt, I'm in the Zabbix agent folder there. I can query the Zabbix agent on my Raspberry Pi from my Windows host. So I'll use this ping again. So right click, the IP address of my Raspberry Pi's agent from the perspective of my Windows host is at that IP address, and I'll try an agent ping. Now it says check access restrictions and Zabbix agent configuration. This Windows host needs to be added to the server parameter on the Zabbix agent that I want to query. So back on my Raspberry Pi, if I open the agent configuration file and scroll down for server here, it's only allowing requests to the agent from that IP address. So if I add the IP address of my Windows agent here, which is, I'm going to need to do an IP config to be sure, it's 1.110, so comma 192.168.1.110, and save that, Control X, yes, Zabbix agent restart, that will then allow my Windows host to make requests to the Zabbix agent. So back on my Windows host, we'll do the agent ping again, and it's returned 1. So that's worked. So agent version, for example. Now, we can also do quite sophisticated checks. For example, I could do a discovery rule check like vfs.fs.discovery. There we go, and it's returned all that. So any discovery rules that you've got running on that agent can also be queried using the command line and Zabbix Get like that. Now, Zabbix Get is normally used for problem solving a Zabbix agent, for example, but you could also write scripts that can call Zabbix Get. So you could create your own little program that can query an agent and get specific details about that and do whatever you want with it. So for example, down here, I've got a little example Python script that could be used. I'm not going to demonstrate it, but yeah, import subprocess call Zabbix Get s hostname or IP port and the key, etc. And then you could use that response any way you like. Anyway, you can use any scripting language you like that can call executables on the command line. Also note that if your agent requires PSK encryption, you'll need to use the PSK parameters. So if we look at the help again, so Zabbix Get -h, some of the examples here, this one's using TLS Connect with a certificate, this one's using TLS with PSK. So it can get quite complicated, but you just need to be aware of that. Anyway, Zabbix Get is another option for you, and there's the official documentation which will also show you some other example usage. Excellent.